Good evening. I am Marcia Marins, member of the League of Women Voters of Chautauqua County. I am moderator for this evening's Meet the Candidate Forum. Organizing this virtual debate is a new and exciting opportunity for the League. Those who have attended our in-person debates will recognize a familiar format, which we can now extend to many more viewers than we could accommodate in a physical space. And we are very pleased that these two candidates have been eager to join us in this venture. The League of Women Voters is a trusted, nonpartisan political organization. League places an emphasis on voting, voter registration drives, registrations in high schools and mock elections, Take Me to Vote programs in elementary schools, and efforts to streamline voter registration laws are all a continuing part of League activities. The League wants everyone to vote and to be confident that their vote will count, but also wants voters to be informed. Candidates' meetings have been around almost as long as the League of Women Voters. In 1924, a small booklet was published by the League of Women Voters and suggested that we hold pre-election meetings and invite all candidates to speak, collect and give out nonpartisan information on candidates and issues, conduct candidate meetings as a service to voters because it gives them a means of forming a firsthand judgment of the candidates, and as a service to the candidates because it gives them an opportunity to present their views to audiences of varied political affiliations. The directive and the reasoning have not changed through the years. Hundreds of League candidate nights are held each year. So as you watch this debate, think ahead, ask yourself, what are the issues that are most important to you? And jot down what you want to hear from the candidates. Are they answering the question? Pay attention to how they answer. Are they specific? Are they sincere? Are they knowledgeable? Keep track of topics. Are the candidates being asked about topics that are your priority issues? And talk about it. Talk about it with your neighbors, talk about it with your friends and families. Did this debate sway your decision? And did you learn something new about these candidates' positions? You must remember also to vote on June 22nd. So this is a debate, and we, like a referee, will enforce the rules and the time and simply stay out of the way. Our timekeeping team is there, so keep an eye on that time because I will. We have not given the candidates these questions in advance, except for the first one, and they will respond unscripted. As with everything else this year, we are learning how to modify traditional in-person events to virtual ones. If any portion of this Meet the Candidates night is redistributed out of context, we will alert the media and file appropriate complaints with any applicable governing authority. This recording will be on YouTube, local access channels, and our website. We will answer. The first question is, there will be 1 minute for opening statements. You will be able to challenge each other, limited to 30 seconds, and there will be no counter rebuttals. The first question is, and your statement should describe your qualifications for office and respond to the following question. What do you consider the most pressing issue facing Chautauqua County? And what would you do to address and resolve this issue if elected? There will be 1 minute for this opening response, and we will begin with Susan Parker.
I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this forum this evening, and I'd like to thank Ms. Starks for being here too. I have lived and I have worked and my husband and I have raised a family in District 4 for more than 35 years. I don't really think one person alone can pinpoint what the single most pressing issue is, but I'm going to take a shot. I think the most pressing need is for a greater integrated process to address the larger problems in the county. One is we don't have enough trained people to fill the vacancies in jobs. Another is more than 20% of our residents are living below the poverty level. And another is we do not have adequate access for affordable medical and long-term care for our elderly and disabled. COVID has made it very clear how isolated we are and how difficult it is to get needed services to people and businesses. As a legislator, I will work and collaborate with others to address the need for a greater integrated process in our county.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We'll continue with Ms. Starks.
Thank you. I too raised my family in Fredonia and have enjoyed the village tremendously. I was first elected to the position of county legislator in 2016. During those terms, I've learned a lot about how county government works, and I've been able to participate in the budget process, the hiring process for a department head, and other positions. I'm currently the vice chair of the Planning and Economic Development Committee and ranking member of the Administrative Services Committee. I've been an educator for 25 years, and I'm currently a school administrator. In these roles, I routinely make difficult decisions and handle complex situations. I feel the most pressing issue facing Chautauqua County is recovering from the pandemic. The keys I see to addressing this are workforce and economic development, the availability of quality childcare, and the accessibility of mental health services. We're all recovering from a trauma and need the stability of a reliable job and income. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to open our meeting to a question and answer format. Rebuttals will be limited to 30 seconds, and there will be no counter rebuttals. So the first question for both of you, do you support increasing minimum wage to $15 an hour? Ms. Starks.
I think all residents deserve a livable wage. I think we need to stagger the implementation of increasing the minimum wage to make sure that businesses have the capacity to stay in a functional format while they are able to pay their employees. If the businesses cannot stay open, they can't provide jobs. So we need to make sure that we can facilitate that increase in a manner that supports businesses as well.
Thank you very much. Ms. Parker?
I am supportive of the $15 minimum wage pay, but I am also supportive in bringing it in a functional way. I know that President Biden, that was one of their priorities, but what they did was put a hold on that because in fact, it is going to be very difficult to implement the $15 an hour wage. I am completely supportive of it, but to be done in a practical and doable way.
Thank you very much. Our next question. Actually, there are two questions here. I'm going to put them together. So for both candidates, do you support alternative energy projects such as solar, wind in our area? And if you do, what would you do to bring some of these jobs here? We'll begin with Ms. Parker.
I do support solar and wind energy in our area. I do think that in Arkwright, there has been a problem with the implementation of wind energy because of the way that it was actually implemented. I think in our area, up in Arkwright, that's our one big example. Owners of properties are the ones who got to decide whether or not they were going to participate. I have seen the solar energy at SUNY Fredonia, which I think is a great thing. I don't really know specifically how I would bring solar and wind energy here. I do know that you can already change your power that you get through NRG to be solar and National Fuel to be solar and wind and renewable energy. And that is one thing we do. So I think there's a number of angles to that that really do play into.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Ms. Starks.
I too support clean energy, and we do need to be wary of how it's implemented. What Susan was saying about Arkwright is true. There was difficulty with the way that was implemented, and the communication between the companies, the municipalities, and the landowners, and the neighbors of those that were able to put in a turbine. We also have to be wary of the way batteries are stored with large solar fields. That becomes a concern. The way to bring it would be to collaborate with the IDA to try and make sure that we get the jobs here. Oftentimes the jobs come from installing the large fields and not to maintain them. So we would need to be careful that we keep the jobs that we bring.
Thank you very much. Our next question. How can the county improve its communication with its residents? Ms. Parker.
I think there's a number of ways that the county can improve its communication. I think that one of the ways is increasing the complete broadband access for Chautauqua County. I do know that there are a number of spots. I do know there was a recent increase in the coverage, but there are still many people who don't have access. And I saw that with veterans when I was working at the VA clinic. They could not get access, and there's different spots. So I think one thing is broadband access. I think another thing they need to do is to update their website. And I think another thing they need to do is increase, I know through Chautauqua County, they're doing a lot of power of attorney reach out to different members of the community. And one way to do that is to tag on contact information for people who don't have internet, don't know how to use things. I think the other thing is.
Your time is up. How can the county improve its communication with its residents?
The county can improve its communication with its residents by increasing broadband access, and we could use some of the CARES and emergency funding to assist with that, and I'm sure. And then their websites are fairly updated. Each department does maintain their own. Being visible across the county is another way. They do have satellite offices in each of the cities in Dunkirk and Jamestown and some of the surrounding communities. So being visible will help. Oh, 30 seconds, sorry, just moved. Website, being visible, and reaching out at various locations and being, oh, sorry, it says stop.
That's okay. I'm trying to let you get a few more seconds in. But,
Can I do a response?
A rebuttal, 30 seconds.
Okay, all right. One of the things that I have done as a social worker working with veterans is worked with the website. And many times I go on the Chautauqua County website. Sometimes it's really great, like some links are great, but I have many times been directed to a phone number that is disconnected or directed to a web page that is no longer useful. And, I had used that a lot in my job. So I do think that maybe the most effective thing is using also town halls.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next question. Do you believe an administrator can do the job of a county executive? Why or why not? Ms. Starks.
An administrator to do the job. Could you clarify what's meant by administrator?
Nope, that's the question. Do you believe an administrator can do the job of a county executive? Why or why not?
Well, the county executive is an elected position.
So
So-
it probably would not be an elected position. This is the question. So,
Okay, I'm trying to interpret it.
okay.
I would, with the county executive being an elected position, you would hope that the qualifications of that individual would be one that could manage a very large operation with the experience that goes along with it. There's a very large budget connected with the county, a lot of staff and several departments with a lot to manage. So the person would have to have strong administrative skills. I don't know exactly what's meant by administrator doing that job, but the administrative skills are very important.
Thank you. Ms. Parker.
I know that a number of other counties in New York State organize their governments, their county government with an administrator and in other ways than we do. So I think that an administrator has a number of skills that include operating a large and complex organization. I think, as was pointed out, that maybe one of the questions is, if an administrator is not elected, is it appropriate to have an administrator who could work for 40 years doing this job, or do we need an elected county executive? And I would think that we need an elected county executive.
Thank you very much. Our next question: how will you communicate effectively with your fellow legislators and the county executive? Do you feel you can work across the aisle? Ms. Parker.
I think one of the things that you have to do when you go into a new organization is that you do have to reach out to people. I imagine that other legislators are going to be reaching out in the same way. I know that there are a number of different committees, and Democrats are on Health and Human Services, Administrative, Planning and Economic Development, as Ms. Starks mentioned, she's on. So I think that what to do is to get organized and start reaching out to people by phone when you get right now, because we're only doing virtual, also by email, and also in person. I think you go and introduce yourself to every single person. You introduce yourself to the county executive and say, this is what my hope is for helping the county. We're all in this doing the same thing, I think.
Thank you. Ms. Starks.
Thank you. I've had the opportunity to collaborate with all of the legislators, as well as the county executive and department heads over the past 6 years, and have been effectively able to communicate with all of them on committees, as well as in different slice groups that appear. The most important thing I feel is to listen deeply to all of their thoughts and concerns, because they're bringing in the thoughts of their communities, and we're all trying to work together for the county as a whole, not just one small piece. When we're there, we're working as the county as a whole, and communication and collaboration is the key to doing that. And we're very lucky that as a legislative body, we've been able to do that. We collaborate, we are able to respectfully disagree and support each other. And I think that we do that well.
Thank you very much.
Can I respond to that?
You can rebut.
I can rebut. Okay, so I guess I'm really rebutting. Hang on one second, sorry.
30 seconds. Just
okay. Yeah, I think that sometimes that you do have to disagree and take a stand based on the needs of your district. I think that, and I think that that's a very important thing to stand up for things that need to be stood up for based on your district. You can also work very closely with others on other side of the aisle, but I do think sometimes that that's one of the priorities, county and your district.
Thank you very much. Our next question. Are you aware of any specific successful effort in other counties that increased tourism? We'll begin with Ms. Starks.
I know that other counties have increased tourism by making beneficial areas, like making good use of their natural resources. For example, Lake George has become a great tourist area. And I know that we have had representatives from our county go out to the Lake George area to look at how the tourism has increased and how they've managed the lake as well, because we can take good advantage of Chautauqua Lake and try and adapt what they have done to make good use for us. Tourism is the biggest industry, one of the biggest industries our county has, and each one of our communities has something that we could highlight. Here in Fredonia, we have a lot of history, and we make good use of our historical sites, and we have a lot of groups that volunteer to highlight them and to bring people in.
Thank you very much. Ms. Parker?
I do know that in Tompkins, I don't specifically know increased tourism. I do know two ways that Tompkins County has increased their access to a number of different groups. I think one of the things you have to do with tourism is make yourself accessible to all types of people, including people with handicaps, elderly, and other special needs. And in Tompkins County, they have spent a lot of time and money making Ithaca a much more walkable city. They have an initiative to make it an accessible city to all types of people. The other thing is they do have educational opportunities for people visiting. But this walkability initiative, I'm very interested in, and I know that's something that the CCIDA, they have a new work group, and that's one of their things that they are considering a priority, making each community a much more accessible to people with all differences.
Thank you very much. Our next question. Do you see the county infrastructure in need of updating? And if so, do you support that updating? Ms. Parker?
My understanding is that there are, I did see the work group buildings and bridges and roads. I know the county invests in infrastructure in that way. I did notice that in our end of the county, we only have like 3 projects out of 24, and most of them seem to be concentrated more in South County. I think there are a lot of problems with infrastructure. And I do know that some of that money that is coming from the federal government can be put to use with infrastructure and is intended for infrastructure. So I'd like to see our county take advantage of that money to that end.
Thank you. Ms. Starks?
Absolutely, our infrastructure needs to be updated, and that federal stimulus money can be used for things like streets, bridges, broadband, airports, water, sewer, all of those things. The current projects are prioritized based on safety and need. So for example, bridges get a score, and the ones that have the most severe score in need for safety are the ones replaced first. For example, several years ago, the bridge over the creek on Risley was replaced because that was considered to be one of the most dangerous bridges in the county. So they're prioritized based on need, but we should be using that federal money to support infrastructure, to bring in tourism, to support our industries such as the airports and water and sewer. our industry needs reliable water and reasonable sewer in order to function, or we won't have a big factory company.
Thank you. Are there any issues with the county jail demanding the attention of the county legislature? Susan? Ms. Parker, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Not that I'm aware of. A good friend of mine works as a corrections officer at the county jail. I do know that they've been having a number of problems during the time of COVID. And my understanding, they've made available to the people in jail, I don't know if they're called inmates at the county jail, they've made those vaccines available. I do think with the changes in New York State law, where they're not keeping people in jail, they're not setting high bails, there have less inmates, shall we call them, in the jail. So I am not aware of specific problems other than the COVID.
Thank you. Ms. Starks?
As Ms. Parker said, during COVID, we did provide vaccines to inmates as well as employees if needed or desired. The reason for the vaccination of the inmates is because they're not there for a very long period of time. And if we have someone that's going to go back out into the community and not necessarily practice safe practices, it might be best for the greater good to have them vaccinated. So that was something that we put into place. We also have to address a bit about the collaborative agreements that we have with other counties to help house inmates when there's a need for space. There's ways that we can collaborate and recover fees or charge fees for working with other counties to house their inmates. We also need to support our county sheriffs.
Thank you. Our next question, if you were to develop a strategic plan for Chautauqua County, what would be your 3 top priorities? We'll begin with Ms. Parker.
So what would be my 3 top priorities to do, or my 3 top priorities conceptually?
That's the question. I mean,
okay,
all right. If you were to develop a strategic plan, which is strategic for the future, for Chautauqua County, what would be your 3 top priorities?
Okay. One of my top priorities would be, one of my top priorities would be that there are so many different entities in our county, in our rural county, that are working on trying to improve the economy, train people for jobs, and take care of needs. And I think it works pretty well, but I have found in my position as a social worker with the veterans that, for example, with transportation, you cannot get from Ripley to Dunkirk and back in like less than a day. And the transportation is a big issue, but I do, and also childcare, but I think in order to really find out what strategically needs to be done, we need to have a complete picture in order to look for solutions. Go to employers and employees, go to schools and training centers, to unions where it's applicable. Oh, that's done?
Yeah.
Oh.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Ms. Starks.
If I were to create a strategic plan for the county, my top 3 areas of focus would be workforce development and economic development, the availability of affordable quality childcare, and the accessibility of mental health and similar services. Workforce development, again, we have a great tourism industry, but we also have companies that have open jobs and we don't have the skilled staff to fill them. For example, Wells Ice Cream has billboards all over the place with hiring bonuses, and we still don't have people to fill those jobs. Athenix has skilled positions, and we don't have people to fill those jobs. So we need to work with places like JCC, BOCES, and other workforce development groups to train our eligible adults to work. We need to support childcare, the providers, so that they can earn a livable wage, and the families so that they can afford it.
Thank you very much. Are there any issues with the county landfill that demand the attention of the Chautauqua County Legislature at this point? We will begin with Ms. Starks.
One of the things at the landfill would be safety. Unfortunately, there was an accident not too long ago that there was a fatality at our landfill. It was a horrible accident. So we need to be very closely paying attention to our safety aspects around the landfill. We should also be looking at the accessibility and the hours that the public is able to reach the landfills. And we should also be thinking about the way to expand and maintain the landfills so that there are always available spaces when they need to be filled.
Thank you. Ms. Parker.
I think that at the landfill and at the transfer stations, I know our transfer station, there are safety issues. And I think that a lot of the equipment and the is outdated and is somewhat in disrepair in some places. And I think at the county landfill, and I have been there, there are some of the same issues. I think that there are special days for taking hazardous waste. And I also know that with recycling, there is a problem that sometimes the landfill can't find places to take recycling that's actually going to be recycled. So I think the landfill needs to address the hazardous waste more specifically. And I think safety is also a major issue.
Thank you very much. Our next question. What is being done, or what further could be done in dealing with drug abuse and the opioid crisis in our county? We'll begin with Ms. Starks.
We have had several attempts to place some counseling centers and treatment centers in our communities. They're not always welcomed, and that needs to have a lot of stakeholder input in those communities where they would be needed most. I think that my intended focus on mental health would help with that opioid and drug crisis. I think that the opioid and drug crisis is a way that mental health manifests. And if we can address some of those root causes earlier on, we might be able to prevent some of the addictive dilemmas that many of our residents face. The accessibility of mental health services and reducing the stigma attached to it. We all could benefit from being well, and the accessibility of counseling and other mental health services. Thank you.
Ms. Parker?
I think in recent years that the approach to drug treatment has changed somewhat, and there are a lot of harm reduction programs, and that the general findings have shown that treatments of short-term treatments, and I know there are some in Chautauqua County, and there has been an increase in the number of treatments. I believe there's going to be a new place in Dunkirk, have to integrate more than just treatment for a short term. It has to include mental health treatment, and also include other agencies, as I had discussed earlier about integrating the various services, because people with drug addiction have to function in society, and they have to have the funding to go for programs that are actually going to be more successful than the short-term programs that we have in our area.
Thank you very much. Our next question. Hang on one second here. If you feel the arts is an economic driver, what could Chautauqua County do to promote the arts? We'll begin with Ms. Starks.
I think right here in Fredonia, we have the Opera House, which is a great method to promote arts. Currently, the art trail is going on, which is a way to bring people into different communities to visit and enjoy the arts. We also have in Jamestown, the Lucy Museum, the Comedy Center, I can't produce the name of it at the college, but both colleges have ways to promote the arts as well, SUNY Fredonia and JCC. And the arts is definitely a way to drive economic development or success, the same way that tourism is. If it's something that someone's going to want to see, we should find a way to promote it and get people to come and see it.
You mean Chautauqua County should promote it?
Yes, Chautauqua County.
Ms. Parker?
I think that we do have a number of different arts offerings in our county, which are really good. And I know that our actual school, Fredonia, has a really good arts and music program. And I think one of the main issues that I would like to see in arts is an increase in diversity in arts, increase in diversity, LGBT, increase in arts opportunities from other locations, people of color. There is a myriad of art that is available and really should be celebrated also in our county as part of our arts, expanding our arts programs. I also think that there's a lot of grants, and there are partnerships between communities where you share different programs. And I know at the school at Fredonia, my husband and I went and talked to them about bringing in more diversity to SUNY Fredonia.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next question, could the county legislature do anything to reduce vacant buildings in downtown areas in our counties? We'll begin with Ms. Parker.
Well, there's two aspects that immediately come to mind. One is the land bank. Gina Paradiso is the person in charge of that, and they have been purchasing abandoned buildings and repurposing them. And in some cases, if someone has, like in Dunkirk, cared for the property next door and it's abandoned, they will allow them to purchase it. I think that's a really great program and is sponsored by that is a county program, and it has been really successful. I think the other thing is in Fredonia, and in other areas, there's a lot of zombie buildings, which are the buildings that are owned by funding companies who have no investment or have in the properties. I know that New York State has a specific zombie improvement program where they encourage people to learn how to actually follow up better with these individuals to take care of the properties.
Thank you. Ms. Starks?
The land bank does do an awful lot across the county to purchase properties that are in need of refurbishing or redoing or demolition. And then there is also the ability for residents to purchase their neighboring lots if they are empty, and to keep them onto the tax roll. The goal is definitely to get property to be in a pleasing manner and on the tax rolls. We are currently behind in our auction process because of COVID. We normally have an annual auction of the foreclosed properties. So we're on our second year of property lists that need to be auctioned or put back onto the tax rolls by purchase of another party.
That's fine. You don't have to go 30 seconds either. One of those things. I think.
But the land bank does well.
Next question. What would you do to encourage local government or service mergers or dissolutions? We'll begin with Ms. Parker.
I think we have one current opportunity to do some merger in Fredonia and Pomfret. They are considering whether or not they're going to replace a judge who just retired and instead merge the town of Pomfret with the village of Fredonia courts. And there are some reasons to do that. I do also know that in Dunkirk and Fredonia, there's a lot of informal cooperation and sharing of services. And I'd like to see that become more formal. I think that we have to look at merging, but in a way that is not going to be damaging to communities. And also that is not going to, there's a number of impacts, like people losing their positions. So just like the merger of Fredonia and Brockton, there was a plan that people were not going to lose their jobs. And they were going to try and replace or not replace people through attrition. So I think some of those ways can be positive.
Thank you. Ms. Starks?
I agree. There are many ways that municipalities can collaborate across the county. And the example here in Fredonia with the courts is a good example. There's also some collaboration that could be done perhaps with the assessors or the zoning department across some of the smaller municipalities to share a person, which might help some save some money, and other departments like that. There's also some funding to help communities that do decide to merge. It's not taken up advantage of very often, to help them cover some of the unexpected costs that might come up as they merge their communities together. There definitely needs to be input from everyone involved so that things aren't overlooked, like what Ms. Parker said with people losing their positions. It should be done with attrition and not by elimination.
Perfect, thank you. Last question before closing. What would you do to bring jobs to our county that has not already been done? We'll begin with Ms. Starks.
That's a tough one.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay, but I'm trying to think what we have not already done to bring jobs. We'd have to come up with a new a new path to bring folks in. I would again try to reinforce the workforce development idea. We haven't totally gone as deep as we can with preparing our adults for the jobs that we already have. So it would be additional training, recruitment, collaborating with some of the high schools and colleges for the jobs that are yet to be or are anticipated, and perhaps encouraging some of our young people or anyone to become an entrepreneur, but most importantly, to stay here in the area.
Thank you very much. Ms. Parker?
I think that there's a new Chautauqua County Partnership for Economic Growth that has outlined a 5-point plan: business development, workforce readiness and development, housing. They're looking into providing, establishing good housing for people who want to come in, community development, tourism, and destination development. One of the issues that I am particularly interested in is the walkability of cities or villages and cities, because I believe that you can bring more people in if your community is more inclusive to walkability. My son went to school in Massachusetts and my other son went in Maine, and they went to school in cities where if you stepped off the curb, everyone stopped. It was like there was an art museum on one side and the school on the other, or a store on one side, and it was walkable and pedestrian friendly. So,
Yep.
oh,
Sorry, you're done.
okay.
So we will allow 1 minute for a concluding statement, and we will begin with Ms. Parker.
Okay. I am running for county legislator because I believe that every time is the right thing, is the right time to do the right thing. I'm not going to wait for someone to tell me what the right thing is to do, and I have shown this already. As a legislator, I will uphold 3 promises. I will act in my capacity to be fair and to listen to the people in my district and our larger community. I will be transparent in my decision-making and in the decisions I make. I will not shy away from tough decisions, and I will act with the courage to raise and address issues that need attention and too often go unaddressed. That is why I am running for the legislature and why I am asking for your support. Please vote early, by mail, or on June 22nd. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Starks?
I'm running so that I can continue with the work that I have done. I feel that I have proven myself to be an honest and fair person who listens and responds to bless you, to responds to the communications that I get. I have worked with residents when they have had issues with flooding in their yard. I've helped residents with issues when they have had issues with their water, with their tenants and landlords. A wealth of issues are brought to my attention that I address with each resident. I listen well, I collaborate well, and most importantly, I think that the decisions I make with integrity and deep thought and respect for all points of view involved. And I intend to continue to do that. And please vote early and vote often.
Not often. Just once.
Just once. Only once counts.
An opportunity to vote many times, but not often. So I want to thank our candidates for joining us. I also want to thank Pat Curell and Marion Jack Croxton and Lisa Mertz and Tina Rauza for organizing this Zoom debate. It's not an easy thing to do. There's a lot goes on in the background. So educating the public about issues and stimulating public interest and participation in this election is crucial to our mission. Although the dynamic was a bit different without an audience, this format still allows voters to learn about the candidates' positions on the pressing issues. You may not realize this, but this is a very important election. It's about who you want to represent you in your party in the Chautauqua County legislative election in November. So participate in your government. Let your voice be heard by exercising your right to vote on June 22nd. Polls will be open from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. and early voting will take place in the county fairgrounds 10 days before Election Day. Please check the County Board of Elections website for the times. They vary from day to day. Sometimes it's 11:30, sometimes it's 12:30, sometimes it's 9:30 when those polls are open. I hope to see you all on Election Day, June 22nd. And thank you again to our candidates. You did very well. No need to be nervous. You guys were great. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Good night.